Sunday. Every Sunday, side by side at the microphone, from the green light to the speed trap, Chris Switzer and Ray Garino calls them as they sees them, and you better believe them. Here, relevant news, biased opinions, and outright bullshit regarding every aspect of automotive culture. Gasp at mechanical trickery never before revealed over FCC-regulated airwaves. Thrill to the explosive tension as Chris and Ray cuss each other down the track and barrel roll across the finish line, laughing at certain disaster as they shake hands with the devil. All that and much more this Sunday at high noon on the Motormouth Radio Hour. Call in and speak live with the Wizards of Speed and live feed, Chris Switzer and Ray Garino. Bring the whole family. Kids under 12 get in free. Every Sunday at noon on WHPC. Take the Long Island Expressway to the Meadowbrook Parkway and look for the sign saying no parking on the expressway and no express service on the parkway. Go right on Highway 24 to Garden City. $2 all-day parking includes pit pass. Sunday!
Have a dream of a huge, luscious, creamy root beer float? Well, if you haven't tried one with Mug Root Beer, start drooling now. Mug old-fashioned root beer in the new twist top bottle.
KHJ, boss hit
Now full of gin.
Yeah, you've got KHJ. No, you've got WHPC. Motormouth Radio, Long Island's only automotive talk show with your hosts, Ray Guarino and Mr. Chris Switzer, and our special guest for the day, Mr. Marty Schorr. Hello, fellows. Are you all in the house with me today?
Yes, we all are here. Marty, can you hear us? Can you see us?
Buongiorno.
Ah, yes.
Buongiorno. Che fa? Blah. How are you, sir?
All right. So this is
good.
Just to let people know, we tried doing this show 2 weeks ago.
Right.
And we had some technical difficulties. So this was the repeat date for that show, and we are here to talk with Marty about a great project. Man, where do you start with something like this? Marty, I guess, you know what? We'll let you take the helm. And well, first, let me say, I should have given it a big intro. I should have. I didn't expect you to be in right in the beginning. We know who Chris is. We know who I am. But Marty, the editor of High Performance Cars magazine, the founder of Vet magazine, the chief cheech in charge at media relations agency PMPR, and consultant to GM from 1982 to 2000, also known as the Prince of the Buick, Park Avenue, maybe,
Right.
Mr. Marty Schorr. Good to have you,
Also
Marty.
the Prince of Pizza.
Prince of Pizza, yeah. All right.
That's because
We'll
you're
give it
from
up
New
for-
York.
Right. Very good.
Fantastic. That's
But
perfect.
it
Marty,
was a lot of fun having Billy on the last show. That was a real treat. How did the Malba show go?
and to tell us firsthand, we have Bill Giacchio, Billy Velvet,
Hey.
our own, here
Hi,
with
guys.
us in the Motormouth Radio studios.
Hello, man. So, Marty, Chris, Ray, thanks for having me again. So we had 152 vehicles.
Wow.
Nice.
Yes. The weather worked out great. And, guys come back with different cars, and it was just successful. I appreciate you asking. Yes.
That's great. That's great.
Right.
Marty, you go. You have Ray's site for the photos.
I'm sorry?
You remember Ray, my photographer?
Yes,
Those-
sure.
Ray Cruz.
Those photos are available. If you don't go online yourself, I'll text you the site.
Okay, at least I can look at some of the cars that were there.
There you go. Yeah.
You guys always seem to pick some really great collection of eclectic cars. I mean, from antiques to muscle cars to sports cars to Corvettes.
I'm happy that there are guys that don't take their cars out, and the only time they want to take them out is to come to the Malibu show. So that makes me feel good. All right, but thank you.
Yeah.
Good.
So
Good.
Marty, come on, I'm waiting to hear what's going on now with the Corvette.
I keep on trying to retire,
This sounds
and they
like
won't let me.
They won't let
Boy, is that familiar.
Yeah, I have that issue too. Thank you.
It's either someone drags me back in, or a project drags me back in, or I get a free lunch and I'm hooked already.
That's all it takes, Marty?
That's all it takes. I'm easy.
That's the old expression, yes.
But I had lunch one day with my friend Mike Morse, and he was a drag racer, a road racer, serious historic car racer, and he's telling me that he wants to go to the Mille Miglia. And I said, "Oh, that's nice, and I want to race at Le Mans, but that's not going to happen."
Right.
He says, "Well, we're going to do it." I said, "Okay."
Now the Mille Miglia is a fascinating race that happens in Italy, correct?
Right. And it's 1,000 miles on roads between Rome and Brescia. And it started in 1927 as more of a road race than a rally. And in 1957, a car crashed and killed 9 people, and the race was over. It was a Ferrari, and it was highlighted in the movie Ferrari. But since then, they've done this historica Mille Miglia that runs the same course, but they do it at a much less of a race kind of pace. And it's limited to cars that were in the original road race or in the original Mille Miglia, and they make exceptions for certain historic cars and historic makes and special vehicles, and the Corvette becomes part of that. So the 1953 to 57 Corvette is eligible in the special category. And I said to Mike, if you're going to do this, there's only one choice you have. You have to do a 57 Fuelie.
Sure.
That was Duntov's baby. And he was a big Duntov fan, as I was. And next thing I know, he's taking me down to look at a car, and we buy it. And that was it.
That's how it happens, right?
It was a red 57 that had been modified over the years for road and drag racing. It wasn't a perfect car, but it was a Fuelie.
Right.
And, the motor had been rebuilt. It had everything was real on the car. And next thing we know, the car is shipped out to RM Motorsports in Wixom, Michigan. It's a famous road race prep shop, rally shop. They build cars. I mean, they're known all over the country. And Mike just tells them, make the car right. And it's there now, and it's being finished up. And before we shipped it to Michigan, we took it over to a body shop in Bradenton, Florida, Miller's. And Miller went over the car as far as the car had a silver Cove. It was a red car. And the car was originally born as a shoreline beige Cove and interior. So that was all changed and made the way the car was. And
original.
Yeah, as close as possible. And you can't really tell through normal means if a 57 Fuelie was built at the factory as a 57 Fuelie, unless you have the paperwork from the dealer when the car was built. But this car appears to have all the right stuff, and all the RPO suspension stuff, and then we brought in, we put together what Mike calls a dream team of people, including me, because I was a friend of Zora's, and a bunch of us got together and just donated our expertise. And one of the guys is Ken Kaiser, a local guy who retired Corvette and GM engineer, restored a 57 pilot car back in the day, and literally knows everything. We call him Karnak. You know, you just ask him a question and he has the answer. That doesn't
Great
matter what the
Karnak.
question is, you know. So he looked at the car and told us 450 things that are wrong.
Marty, excuse me for a second, because
better if it was this way and that way.
Marty, admittedly, I don't know everything. So what is a pilot car?
Oh, a pilot car is when they produce a car, the first could be 6 units, could be 12 units, are considered pilot cars to make sure that everything is right on them.
Okay.
And those cars sometimes end up in the hands of people, other times end up at the factory. We don't really know what happens to them, but he happened to buy a pilot car and a Fuelie and restored it to NCRS specs and won some trophies. And so he's our resident expert, and he secured a Sebring dual element air cleaner for the car, which is what the race cars ran in 1950, the factory race cars.
I'm just thinking, admittedly,
1957.
Couldn't a pilot car have components on it that didn't make it to the production of the other cars?
Yeah, I believe that the pilot cars really just check if everything is right, and pretty much the pilot cars are updated if anything is wrong or production has changed. But it's more of a historical function and manufacturing thing.
Yeah.
But the first few cars are pilot cars. It's beyond the prototype stage. This is a production car.
Right.
So they could have options, or not options. They could have components that, like Ray says, doesn't make it, but they can be different, or there's something unique about them.
Right now, right now, you have to understand that in some cases, pilot cars won't have some of the good options that came later.
Right.
Right.
So a pilot car could be under-equipped compared to say a factory race car.
See, that's what I was getting at.
Later production car.
So to do an NCRS documentation, I mean, it's kind of up to, you almost had to be there to see what was on or not on that car to know if it was correct.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And Ken is kind of amazing. He has written about, I don't know, half a dozen or more books. And his books are the size of telephone books. I mean, if you ask Ken what Zora had for lunch when he visited Tonawanda to check on the ZL1 engine being machined, he will tell you he had an egg salad sandwich, black coffee, and a cheese Danish. I mean, he knows this stuff. And he's really more of an expert in documenting a car than many of the people at NCRS. I mean, he has, mainly because he has file cabinets full of original documents, copied from the originals at the factory. And one of the great connections Ken had is that when he graduated college, his interning job was at Tonawanda Engine Plant. And of course, you know, that's where they built the big blocks. And his timing was such that one of his jobs was to do final machining on ZL1 blocks.
Oh, nice.
So if you want to know if a ZL1 is a correct factory-built car, you just ask Ken. You don't pay attention to anybody else.
Got it.
Because he can tell you when the engine was shipped from Tonawanda to St. Louis. Now, if a car was built, has a build date, before the first engine shipped to Tonawanda, it can't be a factory car.
Right.
So he remembers shipping 7 ZL1 engines, each one crated, because normally they shipped the big blocks in a truck and in a rack, but they couldn't take a chance with the aluminum block and aluminum heads.
Yeah.
So each ZL1 engine was crated, and Ken shipped 7 ZL1 engines to St. Louis.
Wow. Billy, how many of those do you have in your collection?
I'm sorry.
I asked Billy how many of those does he have in his collection, because he's got some pretty cool stuff stashed away in Queens.
In different garages around the neighborhood.
Well, Marty remembers Ricky's collection.
There are so many real cars around that aren't real.
Yeah.
And it's just so difficult because without real paperwork, you can't tell. Right. And Ken has the paperwork. Mm-hmm. And I believe there were only 2 Z01 dealer orders for Z01 Corvettes. But they built more because the factory, the St. Louis plant, put some Z01 engines in cars that were slated for L88s. And so we don't know where those cars are or who has them. And then dealers requested an engine and did a transplant for customers. And that's not a real car.
Marty, what year Corvettes are we talking about in
69.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's what I was hoping you'd say that. Mm-hmm.
But, back to the 57, Ken has been this valuable, walking encyclopedia. And so he's part of the team, and we have the guys at RM Motorsports, Tony Pardo and Bud Bennett. We have John Cutrone, who's the team manager because he speaks Italian. We need somebody who speaks Italian.
Yes.
And he also knows food and hospitality in Italy, so he's going to take care of the team when they're over there. Let me see who else we have.
So, Marty, you're not going to be going.
I'm not going to be going because someone has to answer the phone here.
They make a machine for that now, I hear.
I don't speak Italian. I'm not going to deal with Italian journalists. We have a couple of co-drivers to go with Mike to Italy and to Virginia in October because we're going to run the 1,000-mile warm-up in Virginia. And the co-driver for that's going to be Larry Ligas, who owns Predator Performance in Largo, Florida. And he's one of the top Jaguar racers in the country and a friend of Mike's and all-around race car builder. He's going to co-drive. And then Bud Bennett's going to go to Italy for the Mille Miglia. And we also have a couple of guys out in the Pacific Northwest who wanted to join the team. One of them is a guy named Larry Webb, who has an incredible Corvette racing resume that goes back to 1957, and he is the Corvette whisperer. I mean, whenever the guys from that area go to historic races, it's Larry who does their fuel injection and tunes the car at the track. So he donated his services and his expertise to work with us. And one of his friends and Corvette friends is Jake Angel from Bainbridge Island in Washington. And he runs a 60 Fuelie Corvette in historic racing, beautiful car, a car that was never a road car. Chevrolet built it and sent it to have it race prepped, and it's never been on the street. So he runs this car. And an interesting story, Jake was at the Rolex Historics in Monterey, and it was his first time there, and he came with a whole crew of Pacific Northwest racers. And on the last day of racing, he was in the pits, and some guy walked in the pit area and started looking at his car. And he didn't know who he was, and he was wearing a white button-down like dress shirt with Corvette Racing on the front. So he figured he must know something about Corvette racing. So he goes over and introduces himself, and it's Mark Royce, the president of GM.
Wow.
Oh.
They spent about 20 minutes, going over his car, Team Zora, our Mille Miglia thing, and Jake was blown away that the president of GM came over to talk about his car.
Sure.
He was attracted to his car.
And
go ahead, Mark.
Well, let me finish. When about, I don't know, a week later, something like that, I get a note from Mark Royce. What a wonderful time he had talking to Jake Angel, seeing his Corvette, and learning about you guys going to the Mille Miglia.
That's great.
So what are we commemorating with Zora and the Mille Miglia? What is there a special event, an anniversary?
Well, no, it's more. It's more like Zora was a friend of mine for many years during the 60s and 70s, and it was not because I was a journalist, because he was friendly with most automotive journalists at the time. But once I got involved with Baldwin Motion and Joel Rosen started building the Phase 3 GT, Zora became a big fan and came to see the car at the New York Auto Show.
Right, yes, great picture.
And spent some time with Joel and I and loved the car. And I remember him telling Joel, I can't do his accent, but telling Joel, you can do stuff like this, I can't. I really love it.
Yeah. You know, Marty, there's another guy who was associated with Zora in the race sense was our friend Frank Dominiani from High Speed Automotive in Valley Stream.
Frank was also a friend, and Frank was a SCCA champion with fuel-injected Corvettes. And Frank knew Joel, and Joel knew Frank, and Frank was very well connected at Chevrolet and at GM. He did a lot of race cars. He did a lot of street cars. He did road cars. So Frank, Frank had a great reputation, and I love the guy. He was just great. Besides his Corvette stuff, which I appreciated, he was a fantastic Italian cook.
Yes.
Yeah.
He had a kitchen at the shop. And, each year, my wife and I would go out to his birthday party, and he would cook for everybody. I'm talking about 35 people, 40 people. And he would cook bluefish. He would cook. I mean, he was incredible, just incredible.
I had the ability, the fortune to be able to go and hang out at the shop with him in the later days, and he told me some stories of like skunk work type of stories, how Zora would ferry him parts for the fuel injection. Frank would take him and go out and race with him under his banner, and then Monday morning report back and say what was working, what wasn't working, and they could make some changes. And I'm still in contact with his son to this day. He's another great guy, and he sends me a lot of. He ferries me some of the as he goes through file cabinet upon file cabinet of history. He sends me a lot of this stuff that Frank had saved. The man was amazing. Just the paper files.
I'm friendly with him as well, and he's in Barcelona right now on vacation.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we had the pleasure of interviewing him back in it was like 2005.
Actually, Frank, not his son, not Joe. Yeah, it was Frank.
Frank, yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, there was more of a connection because at the time, Jan Hyde,
Jan,
was the registry of Corvette race cars,
and
owns a Fuelie Corvette that he bought when he was in college. He became friendly with Frank, mainly because Frank was able to tune up his car and stuff. And they became friends, and he bought his car. He bought the number 69 car that held the SCCA record, and he had it for a number of years. He road raced it in historic racing, and then I believe he sold it. It's in a collection at Mike Yeager's place. So I'm friendly with Jan, and the whole Corvette community is part of this thing. And Mike Morse was a big fan of Zora, and when he was young, he would build engines in his family's garage in Pennsylvania and sell them. And he was a regular customer of Zora's cams and stuff that he would buy at the Chevrolet store. So he grew up as a fan. I had the relationship with him, and he suggested, how about we do the Spirit of Zora? Good for me.
Great, yeah.
That makes sense.
Team Zora, and it's the Spirit of Zora, and Jake Angel's 60 Corvette runs that livery on the car, and he debuted it at the Rolex Historics. And all the livery stuff was done by a friend of Mike's named Dave Ryder in Pennsylvania, who designed all the elements. He's doing all the apparel that we will have for the Mille Miglia. And he's a old friend of Mike's and a car guy, a motorcycle guy. So the team is mostly friends and fellow Corvette lovers. And I should make it very clear that the goal is not winning. I mean, everybody builds a race car or something to win. But in this case, Mike just wants a finish.
Yeah. That's
an accomplishment.
Yes.
There's probably 300 to 400 cars running the Mille Miglia. And it's not easy just to finish. So the goal is to finish, and we've kind of made arrangements with the Corvette Museum that sometime after the Mille Miglia, we'll put the car on display in the museum.
You had mentioned last we spoke that just to come in 25th place, in the 25th ranking, is a high accomplishment for an amateur. So that's
absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, there is no podium hopes here. That's not going to happen. Mainly because you have so many guys who run this every year. Some of them Italian, some of them British, some of them French. Their cars have been seasoned on running this event, and in many cases, the same guy has won multiple times. And I believe in an Alfa Romeo. But the Corvette is certainly more modern than most of these cars, but still, you can't modify it to be more efficient, to be safer. You can't put disc brakes on the car. You can't do that kind of stuff. So we had to take the car apart. But the car had disc brakes. The car had traction bars. The car had a lot of stuff on it that wouldn't pass inspection in Italy. So the car is being brought back, essentially, if you really want to get technical, to the way Chevrolet would have raced the car in 1957.
Yeah.
Marty, there are no post-race teardowns, right?
No, there's a tech inspection prior.
Okay.
But there's no teardown because I don't think there's any advantage to running a big engine. You don't have to. A small block Chevy with fuel injection is putting out, it put out 283 horsepower back then. It's putting out more horsepower now, So there's no reason for a teardown. And this car will have the original RPO heavy-duty racing suspension, the quick steering, the wider steel wheels. It'll have Dunlop racing tires on it, as would have been run then, but they're modern reproductions of the Dunlop tires. It'll run without a hardtop because it's hot as hell in Italy in the summertime in June.
June.
There's no air conditioning in the car.
That was my second point now coming up. So is there a correlation between having the guys from the Great Northwest where there's altitude, and then where the Mille Miglias run, where there's a little altitude to fine tuning that fuel injection?
I'm sorry, Billy. I missed the.
Is there a correlation that you got guys from the Great Northwest in Washington, running where there's altitude, and then going to Mille Miglia where there's some altitude to fine tuning that fuel injection?
Well, first of all, they're not going.
They're not going, okay.
The only car that's going is our car, which is the Red 57. And the co-driver is Bud Bennett, who can tune the fuel injection for whatever altitude or whatever fuel is being used. And that'll all be set up probably before they leave. But no, Jake Angel is going to continue running in the Pacific Northwest based on the fact that he runs a business there. And he's not a professional racer. He's a weekend warrior for historic racing. But I probably should put my Mille Miglia hat on if I'm going to talk to you.
Nice. All right, you know what, Marty? Keep your thoughts under that hat for a few minutes. We have to take our bottom of the hour break. We are contracted to do that, and then we'll be back with more of this fantastic story spoken by the man himself, Marty Schorr. So let me say that if you are free on Saturday afternoons at noon, you may want to tune into Radio Rumble on this fine station. With a vast knowledge of pop culture and a unique sense of humor, host Justin Greenberg brings you a show unlike any other. He plays everything from classic rock from the 50s all the way up to today's superstars. And also today's weather, we're in a beautiful pattern up here in the Northeast. Your WHPC weather forecast is powered by Pantano's Gourmet with locations in Hewlett and Uniondale. Great bagels. And today, partly cloudy. I haven't seen any clouds. It was sunny now. High of 79 to 80. Tonight, clear to partially cloudy skies, low of 58. We're getting to those cool nights and cool mornings. Tomorrow, same thing. Mix of sun and clouds, high of 78. Chris, do we have an honor group to share with Marty today?
Of course we do. Today, the Motormouth Radio Honor Group of the Hour. If you set off your very own car alarm by mistake, have you ever reached into your pants pocket and accidentally pressed the emergency button on your key fob? It's okay if you're in a shopping center parking lot. Nobody cares if a car alarm is going off. Notice how no one ever turns around to see which car it is.
Nah.
But if you've ever been doing yard work with the fob in your pocket and with all that bending and kneeling, set the car alarm off in the middle of your driveway. Well, your neighbors already think you're a loudmouth to begin with. This only makes it worse. So if you've ever gotten caught setting your car alarm off in the middle of the night, waking up all the neighbors and setting off a chain reaction of dogs barking, then you're part of the Motormouth Radio Honor Group of the Hour this week.
Very good. All right, that's it for the live portion. Let's get to our pre-recorded spots here. We'll be back in just about a little over a minute with more Motormouth Radio with Ray Guarino, Chris Switzer, our guests Marty Schorr, and Billy Velvet right here on Motormouth Radio. Keep it, we got it on 90.3 WHPC. Hang on.
With answers to your car questions. Give us a call at 516-572-7440. Oh, I should have said the Motormouth thing.
This show on 90.3 WHPC is brought to you by CarStar Celebrity Chase Collision, with 2 locations in Limbrook and Oceanside, who remind you that New York State law says you always have the right to choose which shop will fix your car. CarStar Celebrity Chase Collision offers a full range of services, 24-hour towing between Montauk and Manhattan, shuttle service, and they can help you with a rental car arrangement if needed. All repairs include the CarStar Lifetime Nationwide Warranty, ensuring that the experts at Celebrity Chase Collision are always on your side.
Y sí, hablamos español.
More information is available at 516-593-0920 or online at celebritychasecollision.com.
Hey, you, get over here. Every Sunday, 12 to 1, you are going to tune in to hear the Motormouths, my friends Ray Guarino and Chris Switzer. 90.3 FM, WHPC. You might learn something.
You may learn how to hula, how to rumba, how to jumpa. You may learn how to learn to dance like Billy G over there. I don't know. We're back on Motormouth Radio. Ray Guarino, Chris Switzer with our guests Marty Schorr and Billy Velvet with us today. Fellas, we're back. Marty, take it away.
Marty, I just have to ask, I'm looking at the Car Guy Chronicles, which you are involved with, and I was wondering if there's anything mentioned about Zora. on the Car Guy Chronicles or on YouTube, because I see, or Facebook, I should say, that you have Car Guy Chronicles as well. Is there anything mentioned there that we can tap into about Zora or the Mille Miglia?
Well, one of the things that I wanted to mention was that when Mike wanted to get involved in the Mille Miglia, one of the things we talked about is that running the car is nice, and we'll have that, we'll do this, and we'll do that, but if we don't have fun, we're not doing it.
Mm-hmm.
We've got to have some fun. And, being on your show was part of having the fun, because you guys are fun. Even Billy is fun, even though he's wearing a shirt and tie today.
Billy is, yeah. He dressed up for you, Marty.
Well, it is Sunday.
But Mike just went out and bought modern replica Dunlop racing suits from the 1950s. So when they run the car at the events, they're going to be wearing Dunlop racing suits to match the Dunlop racing tires. And that's part of us having some fun.
Marty, how much seat time have guys like Mark and the other drivers had in cars that were prepped for that era of driving? Because that's a whole nother way. You have to relearn how to drive a car.
Well, it's. I don't have any experience, certainly, but I have to imagine that familiarity with the roads is the important thing here, because we're not talking about running 1,000 miles on the autostrada.
Mm-hmm.
This is going to be through all kinds of small towns and rural communities and small roads, and you have to be really careful and to avoid the problem that happened in 1957 when De Portago crashed the Ferrari and killed him and his driver and a total of 9 people.
Yeah,
it's terrible.
So they don't consider this a race, but the guys who have run this multiple times are familiar with the roads.
Yeah,
It's not.
So there's the edge right there.
Right.
So, I mean, it's going to be it's going to be a crapshoot when it comes to that. But we have confidence in Mike, because if you look at this guy, it all started out drag racing and street racing, like so many of us started out. And with him, it was a Camaro, and he street raced through college. But as he became a more successful businessman, he started trying different things. And right now he owns the ex-Peter Revson Can-Am Lola with a 500-inch big block in it.
Wow.
Which is a hell of a car to drive. And he owns a Lola T70 with a Dart small block in it. He owns 3 historic Indy cars that he runs in historic racing, including a Gurney Eagle.
Wow.
So we're talking about a guy who adapts to different cars and different roads. And so I have faith in him. And Bud Bennett has an incredible experience racing cars all over the world. So I don't think that's going to be a problem. And the car will be prepared like a professional race car. So everything is going to be right on the car, and they'll have spares. And
right.
Yeah, Marty, I was going to ask about that. Will there be, if there's any repairs that need to be done on the road, because we're talking about 1,000-mile trek from town to town, will there be like a chase car behind it, or are the tools and any of spare parts would be in the car while it's racing?
I don't know the exact details, because that's up to Bud in the preparation of the car, but there will be spare parts in the car, tools, and there will be a chase vehicle, because John Catrone's going to be there managing the hospitality. So he's going to have to be at each town arranging things. And, it's being done as professional as possible. But it's also, you have to remember that this is a fun project. I mean, Mike is 71 years old. And he's like a kid. He's just ready to go racing anywhere, anytime. Just put me in the car. Give me a helmet. I'm in the car. I'm gone. And
that's perfect.
It's just, he started out after getting out of college. He went to college in New Jersey at Fairleigh Dickinson. And when he got out of college, his first business was exporting Holley carburetors to Africa, Asia, wherever he could export them. And that business grew to include other things. And that's how he made his, successful business decisions. And but at the core of it all was having fun.
Yeah.
And at one point, he was a military vehicle collector, and he had a big building in New Jersey that was packed with tanks and armored cars and stuff like that. And he would parade them. I mean, he was a wild man. And at one point, he owned a business that had a P-51 Mustang. He didn't fly it, but I believe he had a T-6 that he flew. So they had a T-6 and a P-51 Mustang that was famous plane that they campaigned. And then he got into cars, higher scale race cars like Can-Am. And I don't know if you've ever been to the bridge or one of the tracks when they ran a Can-Am race back in the days. I was, and it was truly Thunder Road. I mean, if you stood on the grid, the ground was shaking. And these cars weighed nothing, had 500-inch aluminum injected motors, and were just wild. And I compare it to, if you've ever gone to one of the historic aircraft fly-ins, and stood around when P-51 Mustangs were taking off, and they would taxi down the tarmac, and the ground literally shook, and you could see the plane shaking, and it was just an unbelievable feeling. That when they gunned it and took off, I mean, it was just very, very different. Can-Am was the automotive equivalent of that, and it was serious racing, and Mike wanted to have one. He bought the Lola that Peter Revson had, and he's campaigned it with a modern 500-inch Dart injected motor. So, right now we're in the process of donating some of these cars to museums. Mike is phasing out of that kind of racing, and the Can-Am car is going to go to the Simeone Foundation Museum in Philadelphia.
Nice.
Down the road. We've made arrangements for that to happen, and the Gurney Eagle is probably going to go to the Indy Museum later this year. So Mike is really a fun guy, a good guy, and a good friend. And a bunch of us are members of my Car Guy Lunch Group in Sarasota, Sarasota Cafe Races. So that livery is on the car as well. When the car comes back from RM, all the livery will go on, and we'll photograph it. But John and Mike and myself and Ken are members of the lunch group, and it's all part of having fun.
Yeah, it is. Billy, speaking
statesman of whatever,
Speaking of lunch, Billy, didn't you have a question about spaghetti and meatballs last time that you were asking Marty about?
Well, I asked what the meatball, what the number was going to be on the car.
Okay.
In the meatball space.
Right.
I'm sorry, Billy. I didn't get that question.
So on the nostalgia race cars, they used to have the round bullseye, the meatball. They called it the meatball, and there was a number in there. Is there any significant number for the car to run?
All the Mille Miglia cars have that.
Yeah.
And, I think I remember your question from last time is, do we pick the number or do they pick
Yes.
it?
Right.
I think they picked the number.
They pick it. Okay.
It's your registration number that when you apply and everything. So they awarded a number. I'm pretty sure that the one in Virginia will get a number as well, and that's probably the number that'll go to the Mille Miglia in Italy. But we don't have too much control over that, and we have to keep delivery down to a reasonable amount so it doesn't look like a flying billboard.
Yeah.
I'm sure that unless we have Gino's Pizza on the side of it.
There we go.
Hey, talking.
That's a good one. Yeah, I was just at Gino's Pizza last week, as a matter of fact.
Well, back in 1957, you never really saw cars. I mean, maybe they ran just a tire sticker over a fender. So I don't know if they're keeping the car true to form, or they going to allow sponsorship decaling.
Well, the car is going. Excuse me. The car is going to be exactly like it came out of the factory.
Okay.
Or came off the dealer's
right.
lot, except for the livery and stuff that we're putting on it.
Okay.
We could have put, Halibrands on it, or reproduction Halibrands, or one of the popular mag type wheels, but we stuck to the original 5.5-inch steel, optional steel wheels, and the car is going to have all the fuel injection lettering on it, just the way it came out of the factory. And Ken Kaiser measured it with a caliper to make sure that it was exactly right, because he came to the garage with the blueprints for the car.
Wow.
So he knew exactly where the emblems had to be, and he made sure everything is right. And it also has the one of the sexiest things about the car is it has the 8,000 RPM AC mechanical tach.
Yeah, tach drive.
That was part of the racing package that Chevrolet sold on that car. And that sits on a steering column, and it has the radio block-off plate, which the race cars would have had.
Sure.
So it's, Mike wanted to make it as authentic as possible so that when the car gets photographed in Italy and photographed in Virginia, it'll look like a car that Chevrolet would have competed with in 1957.
So did those cars
have a roll bar or a roll cage or anything like that? So
I know the C2's got it, but did those cars get the big tank also for racing? Larger fuel
that
tank?
one doesn't.
Okay.
And I'm not sure about. I don't think there was a big tank. I'll check. Let me see.
I know the C2's had it.
I think there was a big
tankers.
tank option in 57.
Yeah, I don't think there was a big tank option for the car. But Marty, I was just curious to know, were there ever Corvettes that competed back in 50, I guess you could say 53, 54, 55, and 56?
Now, the six-cylinder? No.
So this will be.
No. There was no Corvette that competed in the original.
Right.
Over the years, there has been, I think there's one other 57 Fuelie. It's a turquoise or a blue one that has run the event. I think he ran last year or the year before or multiple times. It's a California car. I don't know if he's running in 25, but obviously there was only one that ran in the Storica, or the historical one. There was none that ran in the original. But because the Corvette, the C1 is such a unique car, when it's surrounded by all these vintage Italian, French, English cars, it really stands out.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. It's going to really be a showstopper.
And my experience, which is interesting, I've only been to Le Mans a couple of times, and I was there in, I think, 2001, 2002. I was there primarily to see the Corvette team and the GM cars run. What shocked the hell out of me was the enthusiasm in the grandstands for an American car. running in Europe.
Wow.
Now, you have to understand, with this whole ugly American image that so many people have, I expected the grandstands to be full of Italian flags, French flags, British flags. You couldn't believe the amount of American flags that would be waved. And the enthusiasm around the Corvette team was just mind-boggling. Guys were wearing Corvette T-shirts. I got this shirt at Le Mans. I mean, I bought this at Le Mans. It was also interesting to go through the pits at Le Mans. The German pits, the Audi pits, had a picket fence around them with guards. You could not get anywhere near the cars or anywhere near the people.
Ouch.
And the Corvette pits, wide open. You walk in, grab a bite with one of the drivers, talk to the guys, look at the cars, no problem. And when the Corvette won its class, the crowds went wild. I mean, it was kind of unexpected, I hate to say. And I've had a lot of experience driving in Italy with American cars with Nicola Bulgari, and wherever we would go, we would draw a crowd of people. They just wanted to see him.
You know, and for me, I think the best part, I mean, it's a great story, and I'm glad to hear it, but the thing that really ices it for me is Corvette won its class, and it's a pushrod V8. You know, we're not talking about overhead cam technology. We're talking about Stone Age technology with a pushrod V8 and can still compete. I love it.
Yeah. I mean, the Corvette racing team has done an incredible job. And, you know, to boost this win on Sunday, sell on Monday concept that Ford really launched in the 60s, it works.
Yeah.
I mean, people are so proud of the Corvette racing team, and they have the Jake logos on their cars, and it's just a wonderful thing. And I think it's highly overrated or underrated, I should say, that American cars in Europe. I've driven so many of Nicola Bulgari's American cars in Italy that wherever we would go, we would stop traffic. People would come over. They want to know about the car. I mean, I'll just give you a quickie. A number of years ago, we did a drive event over in Italy, and Nicola gave me his Grand National to drive. Grand National was one step below a full race car. Gulfstrand had built him a 4-liter motor for it, and boost was unbelievable, and gas was terrible. And there must have been 20 cans of 100 octane plus rattling around inside the car. And I filled up the tank, and I went cruising around this town, and I came across a Maserati Club outing, and there must have been 20 Maseratis, mostly contemporary cars, and they looked at me and, you know, gave me some dirty looks, and I got on the road and blew one of them off, you know, like instantly, you know, and came into town, and the Maserati guys came in and started looking at the car and asking questions.
Sure.
It was a stock-looking Grand National, you know.
It's just a Buick.
All right, Marty, that's a great story. So listen,
Marty,
we're in the end of this. We're at the end of the show. We only have a few minutes left. So if you could recap in a minute or two, so we can then we'll be able to get out of here in time and not have problems on the studio. And just a quick recap about what you're doing, what's going on with this event, please, and then how people can follow along.
Yes.
Well, as far as following along, we set up a Team USA Spirit of Zora Facebook page.
Great.
And that's going to track it, but I'll track it on my Facebook page. We'll track it on the C1 Corvette Facebook page. Jan Hyde is going to track it to some degree on his registry of racing Corvette race cars. And I'll do it on my blog, Car Guy Chronicles. So once the car has its livery and back home, we'll photograph it and do an update. and I'll include you guys in my distribution of press materials, so you know exactly what's going on. Anytime you want to talk about it, I can get Mike on to talk about the car, and we can do a whole thing right from his house.
That sounds good.
That's how we do it.
Yeah,
and,
nice. That'd be great, Marty. I appreciate you including us in that, and of course we wish the team and the guys all the best of success, and for a good safe event. I was going to say race, but a good safe event, because that's what a lifetime experience. That's phenomenal.
Well, I got to say that no matter how many times I do your show over the years, I just want to do it again. So you guys are fun, and that's what this whole business is about, especially at this stage of my life.
Well, and you know me, Marty, I'll pester you. I'll throw you out those emails. Hey, Marty, why don't you come back? And Marty's like, I'm too damn busy for you
Marty,
guys right now.
We feel the same way you do.
I know.
When it stops becoming fun, we're not going to be doing this anymore.
Exactly.
It's always fun. So
one day you're going to come into the studio, and you're going to find me sitting there waiting for you.
All right. So, that's not a problem. We can take care of that.
Make sure you bring Billy back when I'm on. So
thank you.
Always enjoy talking
Marty,
with you.
Marty, you know what it is? It's like hitting hit with the rubber hose. It leaves no mark. You endure the beating. You just get used to it.
Right. And it's over soon. It's not too bad. Right.
Take care, my friend.
Right. All right, fellas. Marty, thank you very much. We'll be in touch.
Thanks, Thank you.
And Billy, thank you too for coming on. You were
absolutely.
You were quieter than you were last time. I thought you'd be a little more vocal. That's okay.
I'm intrigued.
Yes. So enjoy your event today, and we'll speak with both of you guys very soon. Thank you very much.
Bye now.
All right, and I have to say, next week we'll be back, of course, with our good friends from the T-Bird Clubs, Elliot Wiener, and he's bringing another fellow in with him, one of his the captains from the club, to talk about their upcoming show for all the T-Birds. They encompass everything from the baby birds up to the giant birds. So that'll be next week's show. We'll switch to Fords next week.
Right.
And then we'll have to talk about Chris's Chrysler the week after that. I don't know. Something like that. So
we'll see if we can get a 57 T-Bird to run the Mille Miglia.
That'd be cool, right? That'd be cool. I know Dougie's sending his out to get a big block Chevy put it in. So,
oh boy,
maybe. So, Chris, what do we say to the people out in the parking lot waiting for me to get in my Italian car today? I'm driving the Fiat today.
Oh, you're driving the Alfa Romeo wannabe.
Yeah, well, yeah. And the people I know with Alfa say, yeah, you know what? I think that Fiat's a little nicer than my Alfa is. So I've heard that a few times. So what do we tell them when I get out there?
Don't follow us home unless it's 1,000-mile Mille Miglia.
Right. I'll try and go home the long way today. I'll see if I can do that.
Right.
All right.
Go the rally way. Don't take a highway.
For Chris Switzer, Ray Guarino, Marty Schorr, Billy Judcio, we'll be back next week. Thanks for spending time with us. Thanks again, gentlemen, and we'll see you soon.
Guys.
All right.
Bye-bye now.
For 90.3 WHPC, over and out.